Hi, and welcome to Dockside with Deb. In this weekly show, we'll talk to people who are doing some pretty cool things in sailing and experts in their field. I'm Deborah Diel, sailor, founder of MySail, and your host for today. Dockside with Deb is recorded live, so you can join in and ask your own questions. To find out more, head to mysail.team/docksideWithDeb. Let's get started. So thanks everyone for joining us tonight for this episode of Dockside with Deb. I'm very happy to welcome Greg Dziemidowicz with us, who is the co-founder of MarineVerse, virtual reality sailing. Hey Greg, let's just jump right in and could you tell us a little bit about MarineVerse, what it is, and when did you start it?
Hey there. Hey everyone. First of all, thanks for having me. So MarineVerse, I have two answers for you. One is practical and one is more aspirational. So the practical one is MarineVerse is a company based in Melbourne. We started in 2016 and we are developing interactive virtual reality sailing apps and games. So that's the practical answer. Aspirational, I guess, is MarineVerse is what that company is building, which is going to be this virtual universe for sailors, where you'll be able to relax, compete, sail, and learn. So that's MarineVerse.
Nice. And what was your inspiration to start the company?
So the most direct trigger or impulse was seeing a finishing line of Sydney to Hobart race in Hobart in 2016. I've been there with my partner Olga, and we went down to Harbor to see the boats arriving. And that basically reminded me of my time growing up sailing years ago, I guess. And at the time I was looking for startup ideas, and basically that direct trigger of Sydney to Hobart finish line. And at the time, I'm thinking about what interesting things could be done with VR was the inspiration for MarineVerse. On a more deeper level, though, I have a couple of those memories when I was, I guess, getting into sailing that made me think that it's a good idea to basically pursue. One is actually my very first sailing experience. So I had no sailing background when I went sailing for the first time. I actually signed up with my mates in primary school. We were like 12 years old. We signed up for the sailing course. And I remember to this day, like we were on the dock and instructor was introducing the boat and basically was saying, this is a tiller, this is the main ship, this is how you use it. And like all those names were so foreign and confusing. Like I never heard tiller before that. So that lesson obviously went well and was good. Like I stick with sailing, but the experience of confusion of those terms, and then seeing how the books explain sailing terms with like a confusing picture, made me think on very practical level that something like VR is a way better way to do it. And that broader theme of basically using VR to help people get into sailing and teach them the basics in a safe, controlled, and self-paced environment is basically, I guess, the big inspiration for the project and where those ideas are coming from.
Yeah, great. So, I guess a lot of it is because, VR is more, think of it as kind of a gaming tool in general, but, you're looking at how it can be applied to actually help people who maybe want to do it as a gaming, from the gaming perspective, but maybe want to actually learn to sail in real life. And it's a really great way to learn some basic concepts or to, kind of immerse yourself in it in a way that's a little bit more interactive, I guess, than, like you said, a book or maybe some other types of technologies. I just want to step it back a little bit just for anyone who's listening and maybe isn't familiar with VR or virtual reality. Could you just give us like, a very quick definition or example of what that is?
Yeah, for sure. So when I say VR, I specifically mean this technology which consists of a head-mounted display, like a Google's. I don't know whether you want to show what we're talking about. So those are the goggles that you put on, and they're actually quite magical if you haven't tried them before, because they basically displaying images to your both eyes. They end up creating this illusion of 3D and being immersed. So it's very hard to really describe to you if you haven't tried it, but it basically maybe like in a dream, I guess, when you're dreaming, you kind of feel that you are somewhere else. And that's probably the closest description to the sensation you get in a VR that we're talking about. So yeah, we have a hand-mounted display, and we have also hand controllers, which basically allow you to grab things and interact with the environment. And the concept of VR has been with us almost since computing. Like I think the first VR device is in like 1960s, but it's always been a domain of military, universities. It wasn't really something that was accessible to general public. And everything changed 4 years ago when we had this big wave of so-called consumer grade virtual reality devices launching. And basically for the first time, it became practical for like you and me to buy it at home and not for the institution.
Mm. Yeah, no, it's interesting. And so I am not somebody who's normally a gamer or, spends a lot of time online unless I'm working. And I tried it out the other day for the first time, and it was actually quite cool. So, you really did feel like you were immersed in whatever environment you're in, and it's much different than kind of just looking on a flat screen, because, you can look around 360 up and down and, move around even. And if you're physically moving, it's like you're moving through that environment. So yeah, I was quite impressed. I thought it was quite cool. Greg, I'd be interested to know a little bit kind of about, we talked about our inspiration when you started MarineVerse, and just a little bit about the company and a little bit about kind of, I guess myself being a startup and me being a startup founder, maybe this is something that's kind of near and dear to my heart. But, just give us maybe a few minutes of your startup journey and how you kind of came to where you are today.
So we started in 2016, just with an idea, I guess. And me and my partner, Olga, we just started playing with that concept of, okay, VR sailing, but what it actually is. And one of the first things we've done is we sign up for a sailing course, and we tried to introduce our instructors to the concept of VR and basically see how it could be applied in the context of the sailing club. We quickly learned that it's going to be challenging, like for various reasons. But long story short, I guess the whole journey of MarineVerse has been journey of bootstrapping. So basically we are self-funded, and we running the project, I guess, based on what we are able to do on each of the stages. And very quick iteration, like we've been putting our products and things we've created to the market very, very early on. I hope to share some of the concepts later. Like what we shipped in June 2016 has been very, very basic and rudimentary, but it allows us to learn and actually grow the team. So that's when 2 more people joined MarineVerse, and at that stage it was still just a project, right? So for the next 6 months we worked together, and only in 2017 we actually incorporated as a Melbourne-based company. And at that stage, we had enough of product, I guess, to get funding from Film Victoria. So Film Victoria has this amazing program where they found gaming projects. And at that stage, we've been pitching what we've been doing as basically a game for people to learn about sailing and get into the sport. So we're able to tap into that, and basically that took the whole project to like the next level, and we're able to work with some amazing people within the gaming industry to develop VR Regatta, which is to date, the most advanced project that we've done, and pretty well received. We won some industry awards, so quite proud from what the team was able to deliver. So that was all good, but not everything is like going amazingly. Like startup is always up and down journey. So when we started in 2016, we were very excited about what will happen to the VR market, because as I mentioned in the beginning of the call, we hope that the launch of VR consumer headsets in 2016 is going to explode, and everyone is going to have one, smartphone. And here we are. I'm guessing on the call, probably many of you watching or listening don't have a VR headset yet, just because that technology proven to be quite enthusiast level at the time. Luckily, a year ago, a new wave of devices launched, and the device you would have, which is Oculus Quest, that's way more practical, I guess, for people to get into the VR. Honestly, anyone watching could just go online and order it, and that's all you need to get into VR. And that's basically what we've been working on for the last year, just getting ready to have the content we're trying to create on that headset.
Yeah, great. And you talked about, your iterations in the program and in the company, and, what you're doing now with this Oculus headset. Can you talk us a little bit more around what your different programs are or your different games are that you offer now, and what type of technology people need in order to access those?
Yeah, so first of all, and that's something that we forgot to mention in the beginning, is this March we developed a small project that we call Pancake Sailor. And Pancake Sailor is something that hopefully anyone watching or listening can try. All you need is Windows PC or laptop or Mac. And that's just a taster of our interactive sailing experiences. It basically allows you to go on a small dinghy and control the tiller and mainsail and just go relaxing and explore the beautiful Caribbean archipelago. There is also a simple race and a multiplayer mode that hopefully maybe we can jump into after this call quickly, just to try it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good point. So for anyone who's interested to hang around a little bit late when we're finished and come for a virtual sail with us, you can go to, and correct me if any of this is wrong, Greg, but go look up Pancake Sailor on Stream. You need to download the technology Stream to your computer, which is free, and then find the Pancake Sailor game, and we can jump in and do a little bit of a group sailing sesh after this. And I actually managed to download it and go for a sail myself on a Pancake Sailor the other day, so it's not that hard.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. So just correction, I think I heard you say Stream. It's called Steam, like Steam,
sorry, yeah,
vapor. And yeah, hopefully we can do that. So Pancake Sailor is a teaser, I guess, of the products we have. Our flagship product is called VR Regatta, and that's the project that was funded by Film Victoria 2 or 3 years ago. And that project utilizes virtual reality and requires fairly powerful gaming PC to run. And it basically, it's developed for gamers who want to try sailing, or for sailors who want to relax. So it offers basic tutorials, like, if you never sailed, we obviously have to teach you the basics. But then you can explore various maps, Caribbean, Lake in Japan, and Arctic, and you can do some basic races. And it offers still the best visuals, I guess, from all the projects we've done. It also has a multiplayer, and I guess the cool thing about VR Regatta and Pancake Sailor is that the multiplayer worlds are actually connected. So say you actually have VR Regatta and your friend has Pancake Sailor, you can go sailing together, even though one of you only have a VR headset.
Okay, that's kind of cool. And I have to ask you, what is the inspiration behind the name Pancake Sailor?
So since the beginning, we've been very much focused on virtual reality, as in using that technology, with VR goggles. And the reason for that is I believe that VR sailing is like, it's the only way I personally like to do sail digitally. Like, I don't really find anything on the flat screen compelling. So for us to release a flat screen game in March was a little bit a diversion of, I guess, our very strong line on focusing on VR. So that name is a bit of an inside joke. The game actually released on 1st of April. So it's kind of a surprise. And Pancake is the industry, within the VR industry, it's a term for flat screen games. So Pancake Sailor just means flat screen sailor. But it's also like, we don't take ourselves and we don't take VR Regatta too seriously. Like, we like to keep it casual and relaxing and approachable. So I've heard that people think, oh, what's Pancake Sailor? And I'm going to sail on a sea of maple syrup, on pancakes. And that's kind of a goofy, funny thought. It's not actually what happens, but yeah.
Oh, no, well, that makes sense. So for us non-gamers or people outside of the VR industry, then, it's maybe a little bit different, but that makes sense. And it's kind of a cool, unique name for the program. So you mentioned that you just launched that late or the beginning of April and created that in March. Was that kind of in response to what was happening with COVID-19 at the time?
Yes, definitely. I mean, at the time we were all, entering lockdowns, and it just felt like we basically looked into what we've been doing and how we can contribute and have the most impact. And it just felt that this is a small project that can deliver in time and put it out there. So the base game is free, and we had quite a few people, try it out and enjoy it. But yeah, it was in response to COVID, I guess.
Okay, great. And I understand you have another product in beta that's going to be launched, I'm not sure when, sometime soon maybe. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so the last thing we haven't talked about, the last product is called MarineVerse Cup, and it's a sailboat racing game. And it's actually the most advanced / in-depth game of the games we've done. And it's and I guess I'm quite excited basically to share that project, with everyone on the call, because I imagine quite a few people in your community will be racing sailors, and we're trying to develop that product for them. So with VR Regatta, we made it very much simple and approachable for gamers, whereas with MarineVerse Cup, we're taking much more ambitious approach, where our interactive sailing simulation is much more in depth. Like, much more is going on. You have to pay way more attention to your sails, and over time we want to give you way more customizations. And the whole premise and the concept of the game is racing and competing with other people. The game has been in development and in alpha for almost 12 months. So we have quite a small but active community of people that are racing every day. And we don't have yet a date where the game will be considered ready or launched, but anyone can join us even today and start racing and helping us actually develop this title by providing feedback and ideas and helping us get where we need to go. And there are two ways, I guess, you can get on board and get involved. We already talked about Steam, where the Pancake Sailor is. So MarineVerse Cup is also on Steam, and you can get it there. And it actually works both in VR and on flat screen as well. So technically anyone with the Windows laptop should be able to play. The game is optimized for VR, so you really want to have VR though, and it's way more engaging and fun. But really, the best way to play the game is using the device you have, which is Oculus Quest.
For anyone who didn't see my previous view, there you go. And this runs what, around $700 to buy a
yeah, Australian.
so yeah, so I guess like it's probably a lot more an easier kind of way in, rather than, like you said, somebody who doesn't have a very powerful gaming PC. This is something that's kind of a middle ground.
Yeah, this is, you know, very approachable. You literally can just go online and order it, and that's all you need to go sailing in VR. Whereas 2 years ago, when this device didn't exist, the conversation was, well, you need a headset and a gaming laptop. And the answer would be, well, yes, I have a laptop. And we'll have to explain, well, but you need a very powerful laptop, so you probably don't have, and it was like so cumbersome and difficult. So I'm really excited now that we have this way more simpler device that is sort of like an iPad in many ways. Like it's very self-contained and simple, and even in like similar to iPad, it actually, the device can be always in like a standby mode. So you literally can put it off, go about your life, and then come back to your device and just tap a button, and within seconds you can be playing again, which is quite different from what was possible with the PC headsets.
Okay. And do you have kind of a timeline for when that's going to be launched? Or you were mentioning that people could kind of try it now on Steam and at the headset. How do they go about getting access to that? Because I understand it's not fully launched yet.
So when you visit our website, MarineVerse.com, and you go to MarineVerse Cup section of the website, there is basically a simple instruction. But essentially, it comes down to sending us an email, and we'll set you up. It's quite simple. We just need to get your contact information and set it up something on the backend, and then you are able to install the game and join the community.
Great. And, you know, looking back at the time, over the last few years, with the programs that you do have, with the games that you do have running now, what kind of feedback have you got, or, you know, comments have you got from the people who have tried some of these games?
Yeah, amazing question. And, you know, to be honest, 4 years is almost 5 now, is quite a long time to be working on a project. And probably the feedback we're getting is one of the reasons why, you know, why we keep going. I'll look at my notes. I have a couple of quotes that I, you know, took for this call. So the one is here is, one of our users said, "Thanks, VR Regatta inspired me to get a real sailboat." So one of the gamers essentially, you know, after playing the game, bought the boat, and then he went on describing how A, he loved it, the real sailing, and B, also how he felt, how it actually helped him, you know, understand what's going on. So that's for people that want to get into sailing. We got quite a few stories from other angle where there will be, like, VR users are very, you know, it's a huge age range, like from teenagers to like people that are retired. So specifically people like in their 50s or 60s, quite a few of our users had VR headsets, and they set up them for their parents. So, you know, their parent would be like in their 70s or 80s, and maybe it's been like years since they've been actually sailing for real, but obviously they spent their whole life sailing. So there was quite a few of feedback from people that basically shared the VR with those seniors, and they loved it, right? Because basically it allowed them to connect to their passion from the past. So yeah, in some sense, I think VR even works better when you have a sailing background, because you kind of can fill in the blanks, right? Like if you're coming at this call, as we discussed before the call, sometimes the graphics can still feel gamey and it's not fully realistic. But if you have the sailing background and you get immersed, then it actually can bring up your own memories that you have in very strongly and powerful way.
Yeah, that's an interesting, like another way to you know, get involved, I guess, with it is people who aren't necessarily looking to learn to sail, but maybe can't, for whatever reason. They are, you know, like they've been injured, or they are, you know, gotten older, or maybe they've moved somewhere where they aren't next to, you know, close enough to the ocean, and want to be able to have that experience a bit. So that's kind of a, yeah, another cool kind of application, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess the other feedback along the lines of getting into sailing was basically just parents setting up the system for their teenagers or their kids, and basically using that to introduce them to sailing as a fun way to get them interested, but then also like teach them a little bit and go on the water. So we had some cool stories from there as well, where parents were reporting that kids actually learned something useful and then were able to recognize the same concepts on the water. So that was kind of, I guess, the feedback that I wanted to mention first, because obviously it's very inspiring for me as a creator. The other kind of feedback that we getting and always encouraging is lots of product feedback along different dimensions. I mentioned in the beginning that we like to launch and release our product early, which means that most of the time they are not ready and they are not always fully to their potential, but that's a great opportunity for the community then to engage with us and tell us what is actually important for them, and basically help us develop the best possible experiences that are actually useful for everyone. And that's why when you're asking, when it's going to be ready and when we're launching, well, it's kind of ready now. And I mean, if you are kind of a person that prefers to have something just ready and enjoy it, then yeah, maybe wait, give us half a year or a year. But if you're a kind of person that likes to tinker around and get involved and actually influence a project which is still in development, the time to get involved is now. And like, you can actually raise today. It can be quite challenging. People are reporting that they actually learning things, so it is already useful to a degree. And we have sailors from Geelong, South Africa, Toronto, UK, so like all over the place. So you will be joining a small but highly engaged community of VR sailors.
Yeah, nice. And one of the things I wanted to kind of ask you about is your thoughts around, how it can maybe be used besides somebody buying their own headset, if you want to help people get involved in sailing. And I guess, this is how this call came about and how I came to have the headset, can't see it, is, from a my sail perspective, I was going to be at some yacht clubs and thought, well, this would be a good way that if I'm talking to people and they haven't sailed and looking to kind of get involved and want to have some experience with it, that they can pop on the headset for a few minutes and maybe have some feeling around what it's like to be on a boat. And so, I'm interested in what you've done in the past and maybe some ideas that you have similar to that around how, this can help people get involved or help organizations get people involved.
Yeah, so specifically about events, it's actually reasonably easy to set up, easier indoors, but possible outdoors. And in the past, for example, we worked with a Festival of Sails in Geelong, and essentially what happens is by having a booth with VR, you can use our software to offer 5 to 10 minutes short sailing sessions on a dry land, which is, I guess, interesting in two ways for you as a sailing club or a my sail. As a sailing club, I guess it lets people who are afraid to go on the water do it safely and without too much commitment, right? Because rather than getting ready for the boat and getting on the water, you can first try it just by putting headset on. And as a person running a booth, especially if your product is not something that people can touch, but for example something like MySail, which is a portal, that's just something very concrete that you can have on your booth to attract people and get the conversation going. Because the headsets are still quite new and unusual, people usually notice and pay attention to what's going on. So if you want to differentiate your booth, VR is a great way to offer something unique and cool and in a sailing space something, I guess, relevant, because people basically get to sail. And actually, just want to mention one more case. We've worked and partnered with a company based in US called MarkSetBot. I don't know if you know them, but basically they do robotic marks. So you can use the app to put like a race course. It's kind of an autonomous buoy. That buoy is reasonably big. So I guess by using a VR, you can put it into our experience, and in VR, things look 3D and kind of real. So it's a good way to, I guess, showcase your product without actually bringing your product with you, especially if it's big. So that's from, I guess, events and branding point of view. There is another application which I'm super excited about, and I hope it will be happening more and more, which is using VR for teaching and helping people have their first selling experience in a more relaxed and a safe way. And the way it can be done is, like, when you never sailed, simple things are very confusing. Like, for example, the concept of no-go zone and the fact that you have to zigzag and tack the way upwind. And so, some people understand and get it quicker than others, I guess. But if you're doing your classic sailing lesson and you have maybe one instructor and like 8 boats, like everyone is on the water and it's a bit of a chaos and people are trying to figure it out. And potentially 1 or 2 people on the water will find it super confusing and stressful more than the other. And I guess as an instructor, you probably, I'm not the instructor, so I'm kind of guessing that you maybe get good over time in guessing who needs more help or not. But by using a VR, you could actually kind of both teach and test people on the dry land to see who gets it and who needs more help, and then help them understand what they need to understand before actually throwing them on the deep end.
I think that's interesting, especially kind of a tiller. I know a lot of people who wear the tiller until that becomes intuitive. That's a bit of a gotcha if you're in a dinghy, and the concept of tacking and how that works, and and your different points of sail. So hey, great. I guess it'll be good to anyone who's in Sydney, hopefully once COVID, I don't know, gets better, we'll be able to kind of go out and showcase this to you a bit. We'll have to work out, sharing a headset is probably not going to happen for a long time, but yeah, when things clear up a bit, then maybe that's something we can help kind of show people as well. So I think it's an interesting way for people to kind of get involved. One more question is, I know you've done a lot that's kind of going around the buoys. When I went on Pancake Sailor the other day, I was sailing around, in quite a nice idyllic location, going around buoys. Have you done, or do you have anything on your roadmap that's looking at more, say, potentially longer distance sailing, or maybe in rougher environments? And is that something you could even put into a virtual sailing, system? Maybe somebody who is planning to go offshore and wants to get a better feel of what that might actually feel like for them.
Not in a short term, but in a longer term, yes. I mean, that's probably one of the most exciting applications for me personally. The challenge is, and that's something that we've been kind of working on and around very hard, is this concept of simulator sickness. And the way you can get seasick on the boat, you kind of can get very much seasick in the VR headset if you do it incorrectly. So we've done a lot of work and efforts to make sure that our experiences are comfortable and they, as much as possible, don't make people sick. But that usually means that we, at this stage, sailing in mostly flat conditions, flat water or a lake. Once we start talking about offshore sailing, it will be terrifying because you actually are going to see the waves to a scale they actually are, as opposed to how it looks on the screen. But B, and I'm not sure if the things you tried that gave you that experience yet, but you actually, like when you're falling in VR, you feel in your stomach that you're falling. So I guess what I'm trying to say is we either need to wait for the technology to mature a bit, or if we do what you're asking for, some kind of search and rescue operation in VR, that will be very niche and only for people with very strong stomachs that want to practice that. So yeah, it's not the first thing on our roadmap, but it will happen one day.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, interesting. I guess it's kind of two-pronged thought is if, you are going to sail offshore and you're going to get seasick, virtual reality sailing, are you going to get seasick offshore? I know I do. I've worked out how to manage it, so I can sail offshore, but it took a little bit of time to work that out. So potentially it's something that people, in a safer environment, like you say, not during their first Sydney Hobart or some non-offshore race, they can kind of work out, okay, I get seasick. This is what it feels like. This is how I can manage it. This is what works for me. And I don't know if that's how it would work in VR, but yeah, it's interesting kind of concepts. I guess kind of following on from that, what is your long-term kind of goal or vision for MarineVerse, or what are your kind of big next steps?
So immediate big next step is basically launching a MarineVerse Cup. So there is quite a few exciting things, I guess, in the roadmap. We working together with a Melbourne-based boat builder called Wasp. So it's a foiling dinghy you may be familiar with. So flying on that in VR is going to be epic and awesome. And we're going to put together races and events. And based on that, we hope to basically do more with different boats and different partnerships and grow the community around the MarineVerse Cup. At the same time, even now we know that MarineVerse Cup as it is quite confusing to gamers who don't know how to sail. So we want to put a little bit of effort into sailing lessons and tutorials, not even in a sense of preparing you to go sailing for real, but just to preparing you to sail in a game. And the way we're trying to do it is it will translate, right? So the things you will learn for the game hopefully will be useful for real sailing, whether it's a basics like, okay, you have two sail and sheets and tiller and what they do, but also like, okay, how do you start the race? What are the rules of the road and tactics? So that's like, next year. If we're talking like next 10 years, it will be a combination of evolving with the technology, and it's quite exciting and almost mind-blowing where the VR technology can get in 10 to 50 years. But also expanding the concept of the things we do. Like, you may know that I think in Canada, like, you can do some of your certification like online. Basically, you can get some basic license just by going to a portal and doing a test. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. I
think you can get some of your boat license online now, but I'm not 100% sure because it was 20 years ago maybe I did mine. So yeah, it was probably quite different. But I'm sure that there probably are some online on testings for different certifications. Like,
I guess the reason I'm mentioning that is once VR headsets are slightly more popular, let's say like smartphones, why wouldn't you make some of your licenses and exams and lessons in VR, which is way more close to actually how this is going to feel in the real life. So that's not next year, but in next 5 years, hopefully we're going to partner with whether it's Australian Sailing or like Sail Canada or even World Sailing to develop basically certification and training in VR. I think that's going to be useful and quite exciting. So that's kind of a serious side of the things, and more fun side of the things. Sailing and exploration and adventure is such a rich and amazing domain and concept. So games around that, basically adventure games based on sailing is something that we hope to do more of and better as I guess the technology gets more ready and we gain more experience and our platform develops.
Yeah, okay, great. And I guess you're limited a little bit by the virtual reality technology that's available, and you have to kind of build MarineVerse to, you know, what's available there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why we'll probably have a couple of iterations. And like, I don't know if anyone on the call is familiar with something like Neuralink, which is a project from Elon Musk, but essentially it's the space called, and this is going to get quite crazy if VR was not crazy enough for you.
That's okay.
It's in the space of brain-computer interfaces. So I guess the Matrix would be, you know, the good metaphor, like plugging in. So rather than putting the goggles on, there is something being fed directly to your brain, and you have those sensations, including like, you know, touch and visuals and audio. That may be 10 or 50 years ago, but I guess the technology we're building now and the sailing universe and tools probably will be able to run in that hardware paradigm as well. So yeah, it's going to be quite strange, but we have many years to get used to it. It's nowhere close yet.
Yeah, it's interesting though, isn't it? All these things you say are very futuristic, and then they are, but actually, you know, we're developing all of this technology that, you know, a few years ago would have just seemed completely unreachable, and it's not necessarily. I don't know how I feel personally about having things connected into my brain, but hey, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, if it's safe, and like, you know, we talked about limitations of like going offshore sailing in VR. Once that technology is at that stage, it essentially will be like dreaming on demand. So you could have a very realistic dream where you have a agency, so you can make decisions, and you know, you feel like you are offshore, even though you are probably sleeping or like lying down on a bed connected to that futuristic device.
That's how it flies. Wow. Well, Greg, thank you so much. Look, I think the idea now is that we're going to jump on and have a pancake sailor race or sail. It doesn't have to be a race if people don't feel like racing. Thanks everyone for tuning in. If you'd like to know more about this program or the MySail app and community, head on over to mysail.team. That's mysail.team. Until next time, stay safe and happy sailing.